I'm Rain, and I'm here to tell you about a great documentary that I just watched. It's called Young Lakota, and it tells the story of how the fight for abortion rights came to the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. The year was 2006, and South Dakota had just passed one of the most restrictive abortion laws in the country. Cecilia Fire Thunder advocated for opening a Planned Parenthood clinic on the reservation. This created a firestorm of controversy, and Young Lakota tells the story of what happened next. I want to make it clear at the beginning that the words spoken in this video are wholly my own. I tried to express things that I thought the people in the video might say if they were doing the narration, but there is no guarantee I got it right. I also want to point out that the cartoon characters are the closest I could come with what is available in Powtoon.
I'm Cecilia Fire Thunder. My Lakota name is Good-Hearted Woman. I am a registered nurse and a woman's rights advocate. I was also the first female president of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Unfortunately, I was impeached after a controversy over my plans to build a Planned Parenthood clinic on the reservation. I did not let this stop me, and I continued to advocate for women's rights.
I'm Sunny Clifford, and I've just returned to the reservation after 2 years away at college. I really want to make a difference for my people, but I also need to figure out my own life. I don't like to admit it, but I'm a victim of generational trauma and a victim of domestic violence. Both of those things color my worldview.
I'm Serena Clifford, and I'm Sunny's twin sister. I'm not married, but I have a toddler. I'm not as politically motivated as Sunny or our friend Brandon, but I do want to make a difference for our people, and I'm always there to support Sunny.
I'm Brandon, and I'm still trying to find myself. Initially, I fully supported Cecilia, but when her opponent offered me a job, I took it because I have 2 kids and a girlfriend to support. I also have to admit that for me, abortion is just one of many issues. I know my friends feel like I let them down, but I had to put my family first.
There are a number of themes related to women's history covered in this documentary. The first is colonialism, especially as it relates to Native American women's history. The second is the fight for women's rights, which also touches on consciousness raising and how the personal becomes political. And the last theme, which is the overarching theme of the documentary, is abortion rights. Each of these will be explored more deeply in the rest of this video.
Underpinning all life on the reservation is the colonialism and genocide that occurred when Europeans came to North America. Not only were Native Americans physically eliminated, Europeans also worked to destroy our culture and our spirituality. Some of the people are opposed to abortion because they are Catholics. Catholicism came to North America with Europeans, and if you know your history, they worked hard to convert Native Americans. Colonialism continues to impact Native Americans spiritually, culturally, and physically. Native life expectancy is 4 years less than other Americans, and the death rate from alcoholism is 675% higher than for other Americans, and for people with diabetes the death rate is over 300% higher. One of the key events in the history of the Lakota is the Wounded Knee Massacre, which occurred in 1890. U.S. Army soldiers killed about 300 Lakota. We still honor the memory of those killed at Wounded Knee today with an annual ride to the cemetery.
As a Native American woman fighting for women's rights, I stand on the shoulders of my Native ancestors who fought for our right to simply exist and the foremothers of all races who fought for women's rights. Although women have had their differences and at times Native women have not been included by whites in the fight for women's rights, when I was fighting for abortion rights in South Dakota, I was fighting for the rights of all women as the intent was for this clinic, on sovereign Native land, to be for women of all races. However, I also understand the additional burdens that are on Native women due to the intersectionality of being female and being Native. Our sweet Sunny expressed her feelings about being a Native woman when she said that as a Native woman she felt as if she was at the bottom of the bottom. However, the truth of the matter is that women's rights, including Native women's rights, are human rights.
The women's liberation movement had consciousness-raising circles in the 1960s as a way for women to share personal aspects of their lives to figure out how they connected to female subordination. I've never participated in a consciousness-raising session, but Sunny and I, as well as other friends, do share private aspects of our lives, and we are starting to see how our private lives connect to the larger world. Both Sunny and I were impacted by our father's alcoholism, as well as the alcoholism of generations of Native Americans. Domestic violence also impacts women on the reservation, and although Sunny would not be happy with me for saying this, she had her own struggles with domestic violence as Rodney abused her and tried to isolate her by throwing her phone away. Luckily, Sunny is strong and she called me and our friends to help her. Some would say that I'm also a product of the reservation, as I got pregnant and decided to have the baby even though I'm struggling financially. However, Sunny has always supported me and I love her for that. At the end of the day, understanding our personal issues helps us to better understand the larger issues facing women.
Americans have been fighting a battle over abortion for decades, and the battle in South Dakota is similar to that in other states. The anti-choice brigade, backed by Catholics, is squaring off against the pro-choice crowd, backed by women who believe they have the right to control their own bodies. As Cecilia Fire Thunder said, "Keep your white hands off my brown body." I believe that abortion is a personal choice and that women should always be able to choose to keep their child or have an abortion. When my sister was pregnant, our mother suggested she get an abortion, but she chose not to, and I fully supported her. In 2006, the South Dakota legislature passed a bill called the Women's Health and Human Life Protection Act that banned abortions, with no exceptions for rape or incest. The only exception was if the mother's health was at risk. Despite being passed by the legislature, the people of South Dakota were smart enough to repeal the law via a referendum. Unfortunately, other states were interested in copying our legislation. I'm proud to say that my sister and I worked with Cecilia Fire Thunder and others to get the word out that women's bodies are sacred, and we were part of the group that worked to give women in South Dakota the right to control their own reproductive future.
As Sunny said, the people of South Dakota spoke and defeated the abortion ban. Ultimately, I was able to work with the tribal council and open a domestic violence clinic with an attached women's shelter. However, while the documentary ended with the opening of the shelter, reality was harsher as the shelter closed a few years later due to mismanagement of federal funds, and as of 2025 there is no domestic violence shelter on the reservation. Domestic violence victims are referred to the shelter at Rosebud Reservation, which is 160 miles away. Sadly, while the people of South Dakota spoke in 2006 and said abortion should be legal, the legislature was able to pass another law in 2018 that outlawed abortion, but did provide exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. In 2024, an amendment to enshrine the right to abortion in the state constitution was defeated. Legally, although we could open an abortion clinic on the reservation as we do not fall under the domain of state law, we would not be able to sustain such a clinic because of the poverty on the reservation and the fact that most people rely on Medicaid for health care, and the Hyde Amendment prohibits the use of federal funds for abortions. Despite these disappointments, I continue to advocate for women and women's rights.
Young Lakota was an amazing documentary, and the majority of the information in this video came from the documentary. But it was also released 12 years ago, and the world has changed since then, especially in the abortion rights world. The resources on this page are additional resources that I used to create this video.